Am I the butthole for refusing to help my daughter pay for college? Throwaway account. I, 48M, have 3 children with my ex. My son Joe, 24M, and 2 daughters Jane, female, 21, and Amy, female, 19. After the children were born, my great-grandmother started a small education fund for each of them that I have now since controlled since her passing. There weren't any specific criteria for this fund within the context of the law or bank policy because of the type of fund my great-grandmother started. I've added my own money to fund, and my parents have occasionally put in some cash, but it was never expected. My ex never put a dime into it but always wanted to have equal control of it, and every time I refused she would get upset. Over the years she's tried to say that she needed money from the fund for expenses for the kids, citing that the child support I was paying wasn't enough. I still refused and said that to just send me the bill and I'll pay for it directly. She didn't want that and would shut up after I asked how she could be so desperate for money for our kids but refused to give any details. Fast forward to when Joe was going to college, and I told my son to just give me enough information so that I can pay the school every semester, and he'd be good. My ex tried to convince him to get me to give him all the money so that way he could have his privacy. My son did consider it but decided that he'd rather I just do this for him because he was worried of blowing through the money. I was proud of him. Jane, however, gave into her mom's way of thinking and insisted that I just give her the entire fund during her second year. I tried to convince her that this way was best and pointed at how well this worked out for her brother. Jane just called me controlling and said that I didn't respect her enough to let her make her own choices. Eventually I relented but made it clear that this was all the money that there was for her for college. That once it's gone, and she was on her own if she needed more. Everything seemed fine up until about a few weeks ago, and Jane called crying saying that she wasn't going to finish because she ran out of money. I asked her what happened, and surprise, Jane gave money to my ex. I let her vent and then told her that everything was going to be okay. That while she may not graduate by a certain time, she can still finish school. She'll just need to apply for grants, scholarships, loans, and maybe even take a year off to just work. How I would tell the school how she was on her own, so she could get more money. Both Jane and my ex are upset with me, because they expect me to pay for her schooling and that I was being horrible for wanting her to struggle with loans. To me, this isn't about being petty but rather giving Jane a hard lesson. She wanted to be treated like an adult, while finding your own way is what adults do. Joe agrees with me, but now Amy is being pressured to access her fund to help her sister. Technically, I could help, but I'd rather Jane work for it herself. Am I the butthole? ETA, because I saw this question and wanted to clarify. Each fund is separate and in each child's specific name. I added money in equally to all of them, but, technically, Joe ended up with a lesser amount because the funds were created at the same time for each child, so Jane and Amy's funds had more time to grow with interest. Also, when each of my kids entered high school, I made them authorized users on one of my credit cards that I always paid fully on time to help build up their credit score so Jane can use that to her advantage. By their senior year of high school, each of my children were told how much money they would have for college, and that if there was any left over by the time they graduated, it was theirs to do with as they pleased. Joe and Jane both went to in-state universities to save money, but Amy is considering going out of state, so she's really going to need every penny from the fund. She's even taking a year off before applying just to work, so she can save more money. It's one of the reasons her mother and sister are using to justify Amy giving Jane some of her money. We're American and living in the United States. Not the butthole. And you're doing yourself a major disservice with this post title. You did help pay for your daughter to go to college. Not the butthole. Valuable lesson for your daughter to learn while she is still young. And it keeps it even with the other 2 kids. I think the biggest lesson she needs to learn is to not trust her mother. No, you're right, the mother sounds like she simply wants the money to spend. And now the mother wants to drain the youngest daughter's college fund as well. It's like a sick game of dominoes designed to leave original poster holding the bag. I'd be absolutely livid if I was original poster and slowly working on an ulcer as I waited for my youngest to cave to her mom. Yikes, poor guy is definitely not the butthole, but his ex sure is one. My gold digger sirens are going off. But this person, I am appalled to even say mother about her, is a pretty manipulative person. Original poster. What if you get Amy out of there? Fight for majority custody and tell Jane that if she wants some, not 100%, money, she better testify on your behalf. Have Joe also testify against her. You may be able to win the case and get Amy out of there so that now the ex can't manipulate Amy. Not the butthole. Good on you for standing your ground against your ex and not letting her have access to that account. Original poster is amazing in my book for teaching a lesson to all of his kids. Joe for putting faith into his dad and trusting that his dad had his best interest in mind. Jane for not trusting her dad and putting faith in her mother, who probably blew the money on herself once she convinced Jane to hand over the money. Now Jane has to take out loans or take a year off in order to pay for college. Though I feel Jane still has a bit of growing up to do since she's trying to convince Amy to give up her money for Jane. I really hope Amy doesn't. Amy for being smart and organized with her future and aspirations by knowing if she's going out of state she need to save more to support herself. Also, being able to see what happens if she hands even $1 to her mother. I hope Amy doesn't listen to her mom and sister, they aren't entitled to her college fund. Also, it's wild that Jane is so stuck in the crap that she can't see that her mother is the one at fault for stealing her college fund for. What exactly? Even though she gave her mother money, why hasn't her mother given it back to the student who needs it? What was so urgent mom needed her student child's college fund to pay for it? Yikes. Tell Jane to go back to her mother and ask for the money and where it went. This is the mother's problem to fix. The mother is so greedy she tried to manipulate her son, succeeded in manipulating her daughter, and is now going after her other daughter's college fund. There is no way Jane or Amy will see that fund if Mommy Dearest gets her hand on it. Edit. Thank you guys so much for the awards. Well, obviously there was a reason the ex never followed through on providing a bill. I don't want to leap to drugs and crap, so. And just hopping on to the top comment. No matter what happens, don't give Amy her money. At the end of the day you're responsible for Amy's education too. And Amy will just be pressured if you give her the money and may not know how to say no. Stand your ground and look after Amy's well-being. Edit to say not the butthole. Amy's college fund is a college fund. She is not in college yet, and until that happens, I would not turn hers over to her. Let X and Jane know that until Amy is ready to go to college, that fund will stand untouched. Also, talk to Amy about how well it worked with Joe and how he was able to make it through college with this fund. Not the butthole. Jane made her bed. Now she has to lay in it. She had a fund that would cover college, instead she blew it and gave to mom instead of her education. Not the butthole. Both Jane and my ex are upset with me, because they expect me to pay for her schooling. You did. Jane is 21 and why she's crying to and guilt-tripping you about this while her mother coaches her instead of turning around and saying, "Mom, I need that money back," speaks volumes about how manipulative your ex is. If there's any way you can directly pay the school for Amy's costs instead of allowing her access, I recommend you do so. You can help protect her from her mother. Right? That's so effed up to me. My ex is upset with me. Well, she was the one who took the money for your daughter. She is the one original poster and the daughter should be upset with. That ex is a piece of work. I can guarantee you that this is only the beginning. As those kids grow up and get jobs, she is going to be all up in their finances asking for money. Oh, you got a raise? Oh, your spouse got a raise? Your vacation sounds so expensive. You must be doing pretty well. Original poster better get his will in order and establish some airtight regulations on how funds from his estate go to his children and what they can cover. Original poster should have a conversation with his adult children about their mother and her toxicity. She might just be bad with money, or she might be an addict. They could benefit from his experience with toxic relatives. There is a difference between badmouthing and speaking the truth of past incidents, yes. It's one thing to say your mom's a liar, a cheat, a scumbag, doesn't care about you, etc., but it's another to explain due to, insert examples, it is difficult for me and other people to trust her with money. I was also told, insert this, provide proof of text/emails if possible, which is why we never had the best relationship towards each other. My mom didn't badmouth dad no matter how much he hurt her. When I was old enough to see through Dad's narcissistic tendencies, Mom answered any questions I had about his past and his actions without getting emotional or trying to paint him in a negative picture. Dad, on the other hand, spent the entire time badmouthing my mom about even the slightest thing she did, tried to hurt her long after divorce, and preferred painting the scenarios in a vague enough way to make him the hero and her the villain. Guess which parent I'm close to and which one I've been no contact with? Think of it as less of a personal essay, more like a textbook describing the events that occurred. This. Not the butthole. You made it perfectly clear that the fund was a limited resource, not an open credit card tab. In her second year of college, your daughter is old enough to understand the importance of being debt-free during and post your college. If she still chose to give the money to her mother, that's between her and her mother. I won't say that makes her a butthole, but it also doesn't make it your responsibility. If I were you, I won't turn a deaf ear to this. But be careful about Amy being put under pressure to pay her sister's fees. She might not be in a position to truly understand the entire situation. Talk to her, explain the situation. She might still insist on paying for her sister's college. Encourage her to do financial research or talk to a financial counselor. After that, it's out of your hands. Did original poster's late great-grandparents intend for that money to pay his ex's bills? No. I'd go as far as to say that Jane's financial decision was disrespectful to her late family. Not the butthole. This will be a lesson of consequences and now taking responsibility. She will not learn if you bail her out, not to mention unfair on the others who were smarter. Let her take loans out. Please do not allow your other daughter to be pressured into giving up her share. Please pay for it directly to prevent it being misused. Not the butthole. As the other comments before me stated, you've been pretty clear about the money the whole way through. It was there for a specific reason. There is part of me that wonders why your daughter listened to her mother and gave her money. Was she under the impression she'd get it back, or that she'd always be able to emotionally blackmail you for more? That's what they're doing right now. Stand your ground. Edited as advised. Original poster replies. Was she under the impression she'd get it back, or that she'd always be able to emotionally blackmail you for more? Don't know for sure, although I have some theories. Haven't asked for details. I truly think it's time to have a long conversation with her about why she gave that money to your ex and what she expected to happen. Agreed, but be careful on wording. If original poster breaks in with a "what did you think would happen?" Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, or even do you know what the money was really for? It'll backfire. The daughter likely already feels shame, anger, and guilt. Original poster has to make it clear that he just wants to understand. If the daughter comes to any epiphanies during the conversation, that's gravy. Hopefully she'll realize a few things before and or after. Not the butthole. You are exactly right. Jane wanted to be treated like an adult. She made a major mistake and now has to deal with the consequences. I would go a step further and deny Amy the opportunity to make this mistake. Dad now pays the school directly. Your ex is a parasite. Original poster replies. Oh, I've definitely had a long conversation with Amy about the benefits of just letting me pay the school directly, and I'll definitely have it again with her. This time citing Jane's situation as a source. Although, if Amy does end up asking me, I can't see myself denying her the money. Ultimately, I don't want to be the parent who holds money over their children's head. I can really respect those last two sentences. Not the butthole, and not sure why you'd think you were. I tell Jane that you're sorry her mom spent her money, but you did make it clear beforehand that you did not want to give her all the money for this reason. You won't compromise your third child's future for it, and you have your own expenses to deal with. I would ask your mom to help or return the money she's stolen from you. End of conversation. Original poster replies. Because technically I could help pay for college, but I'm choosing not to as a lesson for my daughter. Although I know how devastating loans in the US can be, so Jane could have a harder life, and that's something I ultimately want for her. Not the butthole, and don't you dare tap into Amy's college fund to pay for Jane's mistake. Not the butthole. What did she think her mom was going to do with her money? Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.